I've set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. Pennsylvania, I'm here today because I found such a leader. Governor Tim Walz of the great state of Minnesota.
Vice President Kamala Harris right there, appearing for the first time aside her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, in their first rally together. I'm Valerie Castro in for Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. Hours after announcing the Minnesota governor would be on the ticket, Vice President Kamala Harris hard-launched her running mate in Philadelphia.
In 91 days, the nation will know Coach Walz by another name, Vice President of the United States.
Harris personally delivered the news to Walz in a video call this morning.
Listen, I want you to do this with me. Let's do this together. Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country, the enthusiasm that's out there, it'll be a privilege to take this with you across the country.
The Harris campaign has moved at warp speed in about 2 weeks to unify the Democratic Party after President Joe Biden dropped out. Today just might have been the culmination of that.
Under those Friday night lights, Coach Walz motivated his players to believe they could achieve anything. And together, they defied the odds, hear this out, going from a winless record to the school's first ever state championship. Tim wasn't only a role model on the football field. Around that same time, Coach Walz was approached by a student in his social studies class. The young man was one of the first openly gay students at the school and was hoping to start a gay-straight alliance. At a time when acceptance was difficult to find for LGBTQ students, Tim knew the signal that it would send to have a football coach get involved. So he signed up to be the group's faculty advisor. And as students have said, he made the school a safe place for everybody. With his experience, I'm telling you, Tim Walz will be ready on day one. In fact, when you compare his resume shall we, to Trump's running mate, well, some might say it's like a matchup between the varsity team and the JV squad.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, for the trust you put in me, but maybe more so, thank you for bringing back the joy. I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you and Doug, this incredible journey. Donald Trump's not fighting for you or your family. He never sat at that kitchen table like the one I grew up at, wondering how we were going to pay the bills. He sat at his country club up in Mar-a-Lago, wondering how he can cut taxes for his rich friends. And I got to tell you, his running mate shares his dangerous and backward agenda for this country. J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see. So you know what's out there, so say it with me. We aren't going back. We aren't going back. We are not going back. So we got 91 days. My God, that's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead.
NBC Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor joins me now from Philadelphia. Yamiche, how was the energy at their first joint rally? What did you see?
Well, the campaign, the Harris-Walz campaign, says that 14,000 people showed up to this arena to see this debut rally. And the energy was really palpable here. People were screaming, they were chanting, they were applauding. And there were a number of times where people were also laughing. The new, of course, running mate, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, he leaned into this idea that really this is going to be a joyful campaign. He thanked Vice President Harris for trusting him, and he said that he was going to have her back. But then he went into talking about sort of Republicans and their vision, and he had a few zingers that the crowd really reacted to. One in particular, he said when former President Trump was in office, that violent crime was up, and then he paused and said, and that's not including the crimes that he committed. People then sort of really reacted loudly and were applauding it. And he also said that there's common sense in Minnesota. He said, mind your own business. And he was talking about reproductive rights in particular. He also talked a lot about his own personal story here. But this crowd, you can tell, was a crowd that was very excited. And I talked to a couple of voters who said they felt relief, and also they feel energy, they feel good about their chances of winning in November.
Hey, Yamiche, we know that Tim Walz, Josh Shapiro, and Mark Kelly were all finalists here, but what was it that made Walz stand out?
Well, from my understanding and from my reporting, talking to a number of sources who were close to this process, who were directly involved in this vetting process, I was told that Tim Walz really stood out because of his governance and his executive experience. He passed a number of policies that the campaign, the Harris campaign, really admired, including paid family leave for women and families in Minnesota, also universal school lunch for children. Also, he codified Roe v. Wade. He was the first governor to do that in his state. So they were really impressed by those moves. I was also told that his background really stood out, that he was talking about the idea that he was someone who could appeal to everyday Americans. He's a teacher. He's someone who is also a veteran of the National Guard. He's someone who's a hunter and owns a gun, but also, he said, believes in common sense gun control. He also talked about the fact, and they also talked about the fact, that he was someone who really was from rural America. He grew up in a small sort of city and could really understand the middle class America and really sort of appeal to those voters. So all of those things were really, I think, things that made him stand out. But there was also the communication piece. He settled on the word weird to describe former President Trump and J.D. Vance. And the Harris campaign echoed that language over the last few days. And I'm told that that was also something that really impressed them.
Let's talk about some of the numbers. There's a new poll showing that 70% of voters don't even know who Tim Walz is. They don't have an opinion about him. How is the campaign planning to manage that?
Well, it's interesting because that in some ways means that they have in their minds, talking to them today, talking to campaign officials today, in their minds, they're able to introduce this new person. And he's somebody who they're leaning into the idea that he's both has this experience, but also someone who is funny, who is a good communicator. I mean, today he was joking and talking about the fact that he sort of understands what it means to sort of just look at Republicans and wonder what they're doing. He talked about the fact that they were sort of creepy. So the idea is that they really want to introduce America. So you're seeing all these new videos, new merchandise. So they're also going to really lean into making sure people know his background. But they really feel like when people get to know him, when people get to really sort of get to understand what makes him tick and his family's journey, that they'll really like him, including the fact that he was a teacher, and his wife, he talked about, is a teacher for 29 years. So really just someone that they hope people will relate to.
Okay, Yamiche Alcindor in Philadelphia for us tonight. Thank you. Let's take a closer look at Governor Tim Walz's resume and what motivated him to get into politics. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more.
A white-haired, working-class politician from the rural Midwest, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is seen as a plain-spoken attack dog who's not shy about taking on the Republican ticket.
These guys are just weird. And it's, you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club or something.
At 60 years old, he's just 6 months older than Kamala Harris, but they're from very different backgrounds. Walz grew up in small-town Nebraska, spending summers working on the family farm. At 17, he joined the National Guard, eventually becoming a school teacher and football coach, and meeting his wife, Gwen. After moving to Minnesota, the father of two was elected to Congress in 2006 and ran for governor in 2018, winning in a landslide. His progressive record, now touted by Democrats, includes creating paid family medical leave, legalizing recreational marijuana, and increasing tax credits for low-income families. But Republicans have slammed other bills he signed, making undocumented immigrants eligible for driver's licenses, state-funded health care, and free college tuition at state universities. Also, in 2020, as George Floyd's killing triggered riots and looting in Minneapolis, Walz drew criticism over why it took him 3 days to call in the National Guard.
Is what it is, and I simply believe that we try to do the best we can.
But Walz also brings strong union support as Democrats look to appeal to the critical Rust Belt.
I had an opponent who thought this was a real zinger when we were going at it. He said, Governor Walz is in the pocket of organized labor. And I said, that is a damn lie. I am the pocket.
A hunter and gun owner, Congressman Walz was once endorsed by the NRA, but that changed dramatically when he became governor, since he's backed new gun restrictions. Back to you.
Joining us now is Kaivan Shroff, a 2024 DNC delegate at large who previously worked on Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. Kaivan, thanks for being with us tonight. What was your immediate reaction when you heard Harris picked Walz, and do you think this is the right pick?
I do think it's a really strong pick. I was excited because all week, as this sort of contention has been going between these different choices, the viral videos have been spreading. He is just such a relatable, likable guy. And I know last time you and I chatted, we talked about how would Harris take the viral memes and all that momentum and make it something lasting over the next 100 days, now 90 days of the campaign. And I think making this choice, a credible choice that shows young voters, progressives who are so excited about Walz, that she is in. And she is not just going to rely on them for, you know, going viral, but she values them from a policy perspective, and she's chosen someone with a proven record to show that.
And when you look at Walz, he's been the governor of a state, but what about the rest of his background? Do you have confidence he can handle national issues?
I do. You know, I think part of the reason they chose him is because he's taken the issues that Democrats have been trying to establish at the federal level, and he's accomplished them in his state, enshrining abortion rights, progress on gun violence prevention, benefits for labor, all of those issues that are really the defining features of what the Harris administration wants to do, and he's done it. And he also balances out her background because she was an AG, she was a DA, she was a senator, he's a governor, he was a congressman, but he was also a veteran, a teacher, a coach. So that's a lot of titles between the two of them.
I know a lot of people will be looking to learn more about who he is. Kaivan Shroff, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Great to be with you.
Thanks. Vice President Harris and Governor Walz weren't the only 2024 hopefuls campaigning in Philadelphia today. Republican vice presidential candidate Vance was also there, marking his first appearance in Pennsylvania since being named Trump's running mate. He took the stage shortly after Walz was announced as Harris's VP pick. Here's what he had to say.
Tim Walz's record is a joke. He's been one of the most far-left radicals in the entire United States government at any level. But I think that what Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has bent the knee to the far left of her party.
For more, let's go to NBC's Garrett Haig.
Hey, Valerie. The Trump campaign's response to Tim Walz joining the ticket is basically twofold. On the tactical level, they are using Vance to bracket the Democratic campaign, basically having him appear in every media market where the Democratic campaign will be and try to force his way into the news. He's going to take questions from reporters. He's going to criticize this ticket. He's going to call out Harris and Tim Walz, suggesting they are too liberal and that she has essentially bent the knee to the far left of the Democratic Party by selecting the governor of Minnesota, and basically try to force his way into the news cycle that way. The Trump campaign, likewise, is releasing ads, mostly online at this point. We'll see if they put real television money behind them, trying to make the same argument that Walz is basically an echo of Harris and too liberal for the rest of the country. They're also doing something a little bit more like a whisper campaign, although they're saying it to a certain degree out loud, that by suggesting Walz rather than Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Harris has somehow bowed to the most anti-Semitic elements of the Democratic Party. The Harris campaign is kind of shrugging this off. Shapiro himself, in his remarks earlier tonight, talked about the idea that he was proud of his faith. I don't expect to see him engage in this a little bit, but this is the Trump campaign's kind of trollish way to try to create a little friction, cause a little trouble within the Democratic Party on an issue that does divide Democrats, namely the war in Gaza, not anti-Semitism. Of course, Harris, you'll remember, is married to a Jewish man, but watch for Republicans to continue to try to cause some trouble in that space while they otherwise figure out how to get their arms around Harris and Walz as a ticket they can attack. Earlier tonight, for example, Donald Trump posted something on his Truth Social account. It was basically, suddenly he was begging Joe Biden to get back in the race, criticizing Biden and suggesting that Biden would appear at the Democratic convention and try to take back his post at the top of the ticket. That tells me that at least Donald Trump and possibly his campaign apparatus still have not fully turned the battleship around to take on Harris, not Joe Biden, in the 90 days we have left in this race. Valerie?
Garrett Haake, thank you. The flooding threat in the southeast is growing more dangerous by the minute, and that is the worry coming from officials as Tropical Storm Debby makes a slow crawl over Georgia and South Carolina. The storm has already dumped historic amounts of rainfall in Florida, leaving communities completely underwater, thousands without power, and at least 5 people dead, including 2 kids. At least 1 person has been killed in Georgia. Officials are warning people to stay home as the threat of flash flooding and storm surge increases, along with the threat of tornadoes. Just take a look at the damage in South Carolina after a reported twister there in the last 24 hours. This comes on top of more than a foot of rain some parts of the state have already seen.
Bedrooms are soaking wet. The bathrooms are soaking wet. You can't use the bathrooms. We had about maybe a foot in here, so.
You had a foot of water in here?
Yeah. And it's receded a little bit, so.
But then, I mean, you step outside.
You step outside and they're talking rain for the next 3 days, so it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, wow. The next 48 hours are going to be critical. Debby is expected to move offshore where it will linger before making a second landfall. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns is standing by with the forecast. But first, let's go to NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa in Charleston, South Carolina. Maggie, there are areas of South Carolina like Charleston that are prone to floods even on a typical normal rainy day. Are people ready for it to get worse?
I mean, are they ready for it? That's debatable. Are they expecting it to get worse? Absolutely. And by the way, Valerie, I'll point out almost on cue, it started raining here in Charleston as you began your intro. So this is kind of representative of what we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours. These rainstorms are sporadic. They're often heavy. And when they're heavy, they flood streets like the one you can see behind me. We've had scattered flooding basically throughout the day here in Charleston, so much so that the mayor extended the city's curfew again overnight. We've also want to show you crazy video from across Debby's path. We'll start in Florida, Manatee County, Florida, of cars, drivers, I should say, water rescues, people, Good Samaritans, officials pulling drivers from their cars, carrying them to safety. Thankfully, we've heard everybody made it out okay. We also saw a lot of cars abandoned here in South Carolina after drivers had to be rescued from those as well. So it's a really stark reality, again, even for a place used to flooding, just how big and how powerful this storm is and could very well get. Here's some of what we heard here in Charleston today.
It definitely makes me think twice about where I live, you know. Well, you know, with the newborn at home and a puppy and, you know, do we want to stay here downtown on the peninsula forever? Really, it's about getting out of the house right now. Yeah. Because my house is raised, so I'm okay there, but I'm more worried about being sort of stuck there.
Yeah, and again, people are savvy to kind of the best way to live and survive these floods. Kind of one point to that end, Valerie, people all parking their cars on parking garages. The city opened garages early so people can get their cars multiple stories up just in case the water gets to that shockingly high level.
And Maggie, on top of the rain, there were tornadoes in South Carolina. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. Multiple reported tornadoes. We have some damage, I think, out of Monk's Corner. It's about 40 minutes from here. And you can see an Arby's was completely torn apart. We also saw a video of like trucks and cars tossed upside down. These were, again, multiple tornadoes kind of in Debbie's path. Some reports that some of them started as water spouts off the coast and then made their way onto land. We don't, thankfully, have any reports of injuries. But again, this is an area that's used to flooding, used to hurricanes. But it just speaks to the strength of this one, and especially after seeing all the damage that was done farther south in Florida and in parts of Georgia, seeing the death toll actually tonight rising to 6 people. We've confirmed a 6th death in Georgia. Valerie, people here are very aware of Debbie's strength and very cognizant of what could be coming here over the next few days.
Vespa in Charleston for us tonight. Maggie, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what happens now as Debbie starts going offshore? We haven't seen the last of her, right?
No, there will be a second landfall. You know, you're like, oh, landfall again. But this is going to remain a very weak storm. There was a point yesterday that we were actually worried if it went far enough offshore, got over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream, could this try to get up to a strong tropical storm or hurricane again? That looks highly unlikely now. And the reason why is, notice there's no clouds here at all near Panama City. There's a lot of dry air, and it's actually getting sucked around the storm and into the center of the storm. You can kind of see it here. There's no clouds even from Charleston on the east side of the storm. And that's because that dry air got sucked in. And for that reason, that's why this thing will really struggle to get any stronger than it is right now, even though it's going to be over water over the next 2 days. So the Hurricane Center, yeah, that agrees with their forecast. What they're thinking is it's barely a tropical storm now. And it drifted. It walked through Savannah today. It's moving at 3 miles per hour. And it's going to continue to do that just barely off the coast. And with those spiraling bands around the outside of the storm, that's where we still have the problem. So we've got 16 million people under flood watches from Richmond all the way down to Savannah and Brunswick, Georgia. Where you see the maroon areas, that's where we have flash flood warnings going on right now. And we have numerous locations here that are talking about, 6 to an additional 10 inches of rain. Also, eastern North Carolina is getting into the mix here, too. And then further to the north, that's where we're going to be watching a heavy rain event now because of areas of showers and thunderstorms, and then additional rain from Debbie, too. So maximum total still could get up there to 25 inches. We've already had a few spots around 17, and this is in addition to what we've already seen. So that's why if you already have a foot of rain and you get another 6 to 10, you can see why the problems are still yet to come in the next 2 days. And then in the northeast, it's not a foot of rain, but maybe some places 3 to 6 inches of rain, and that's going to be in some mountainous areas. And this is going to be Friday into Friday night. So keep that in mind for your weekend travel plans, especially in the mountainous areas. That's where it could be the worst. And, as far as the storm goes for Hurricane Center, notice that little hook here. And then finally, we get that acceleration northwards Thursday, Friday. So it stalls for about another 24 hours, Valerie, and then it begins to start moving.
All right. We've been saying it was hot here. I guess we needed the cool down.
Big time.
All right. Meteorologist Bill Cairns, thank you. And don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Up next, an assassination plot allegedly targeting Donald Trump foiled. What we know about the suspect and his ties to Iran. Plus, the EPA making a move it hasn't done in decades. Why the agency is calling for a pesticide to be pulled off store shelves immediately. And later this hour, going for gold again with a different purpose. Women's basketball superstar Brittney Griner opens up about being on the court in Paris, her feelings representing Team USA following her imprisonment in Russia.
I'm happy. I'm in a great place. I'm representing my country that fought for me to come back. And I'm going to represent well.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. 9 people are dead in Florida after an SUV flipped into a canal in Palm Beach County last night. Police say the driver lost control of a Ford Explorer, jumped a guardrail, overturned, and landed in the water. 4 of the victims were killed at the scene. 5 others died at a nearby hospital. 1 passenger survived. The Red Cross says they're in desperate need of blood. The organization says it has lost almost 100 blood drives because of excessive heat waves. The national supply has fallen by more than 25% since the start of last month, meaning blood is being sent to hospitals faster than donations are being collected. Actor Achille McDowell is being charged with murder. He is best known for his role in the TV show Billions. He was arrested in connection with a murder last month. Police say the victim was shot and killed in Houston. Details around the murder still remain unclear. McDowell is being held on $400,000 bond. Mr. Worldwide is staking claim in the 305. Pitbull announcing he's buying Florida International University's football stadium. The naming rights deal is the first ever artist-branded stadium, and it will actually be called Pitbull Stadium. The superstar is from Miami, kicking off his music career in South Florida. The Chicago White Sox are breaking records, and not exactly the right kind. The baseball team has lost the last 21 straight games, the longest losing streak since the Baltimore Orioles back in 1988. The White Sox have a chance to break that record tonight as they take on the Oakland A's. And breaking news tonight, criminal murder charges have been filed tonight for the 4 security guards involved in the death of Devontae Mitchell. A warning, the footage we're about to show you is graphic. The men allegedly pinned Mitchell face down on the ground outside a Milwaukee hotel in June. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner ruled Mitchell's death a homicide, adding that he died from suffocation and multiple drug use. Arrest warrants are now out for the suspects. A Pakistani man facing federal charges tonight in an alleged scheme to kill a number of U.S. leaders. Investigators say they believe that former President Donald Trump was likely one of those targets. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian has the story.
His name is Asif Raza Merchant, a 46-year-old Pakistani national who had spent time in Iran, and tonight faces federal charges over a murder-for-hire scheme targeting a politician or U.S. government official. This handwritten note, now evidence. It's where the charges say Merchant wrote down code words to discuss the assassination plans with a confidential source in New York City. Prosecutors say he later handed over $5,000 in cash. A senior law enforcement official tells NBC News former President Donald Trump was a potential target of the plot, possibly retribution for the 2020 U.S. killing of a general in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard.
For years, the Justice Department has been working to aggressively counter Iran's brazen and unrelenting efforts to retaliate against American government officials for the killing of General Soleimani.
Merchant was arrested the day before the attempted assassination of Mr. Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. And while his plot is not believed to be connected to that shooting, it is part of the reason the Secret Service detail around the former president had been increased.
Merchant was trying to leave the U.S. the day he was arrested. The DOJ says the hitmen he believed he was hiring were actually undercover law enforcement officers.
The Supreme Court weighing in on a potential sentencing delay in former President Trump's hush money case. The short answer is no change is coming. Trump was convicted in May of 34 counts of falsifying business records in New York. He's been under a gag order ever since, barring him from talking about the case out on the campaign trail. Missouri's Attorney General tried to delay the sentencing for that very reason, arguing voters in the state had the right to hear from Trump. With this decision, it's full steam ahead towards that September sentencing date. Joining us now is criminal defense attorney Misty Maris. Misty, was Missouri's case always a long shot?
This was a real long shot, and I'm going to call it a very, very interesting legal theory. So what Missouri was trying to assert was that voters in that jurisdiction were not getting the information. They're basically their rights were being impeded because Donald Trump's sentencing and gag order were in place. And this was a very, very long shot claim. What they were trying to do is go directly to the Supreme Court under this concept of what's called original jurisdiction, meaning you're skipping all the courts in between. The thing is, original jurisdiction applies when there's a genuine controversy between two states. And these facts just simply did not fall under those parameters. And that's ultimately what the Supreme Court determined. So no surprise here that this is the result.
So will this ruling dissuade other states from making the same kind of argument?
Well, there's precedent for this, actually, about original jurisdiction and when it's actually granted. It's really in place for the types of cases that relate to boundaries between states or water rights. Obviously, this falls way outside of that. And in prior cases, the court has also declined to assert that concept of original jurisdiction, both in 2016 and in 2020. In 2020, Texas actually asked for election results to be overturned in battleground states on a very similar theory. But here, the court has made it clear that standing is really the issue, that in a case like this, there is no standing for a state to try and intervene. And this is longstanding precedent relating to other states not interfering in criminal matters. So it's really setting a precedent that these types of cases are not going to be heard by the Supreme Court.
And looking ahead to September, what kind of sentencing are we expecting in this case?
Well, right now, it's really a question mark as to whether or not that September 18th date will actually stand, not because of this particular case, but because of the Trump immunity SCOTUS decision. That decision said that you have to go back through all of the evidence that came into the courtroom and determine whether or not it was admissible. Right now, that September 18th date is still on the calendar. At the hearing, they will present what's called mitigating and aggravating factors that will relate to Trump's sentencing. I don't know if we're actually going to see that happen in September because of the immunity decision, but if we do, I do think it's unlikely Trump receives any jail time.
All right, Misty Maris, thank you for your analysis. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Voters in 4 states are weighing in on a couple of high-profile congressional and gubernatorial primaries tonight. We're talking about key races in Kansas, Missouri, Michigan, and Washington. That's where Republican Congressman Dan Newhouse is up against 2 candidates backed by Donald Trump. Newhouse is one of 2 remaining Republicans still in Congress who voted to impeach the former president. In Missouri, Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush is looking to fend off a primary challenge from County Prosecutor Wellesley Bell. We are still waiting for the results in this race. We do have early votes coming in from Michigan in the race for the open Senate seat by retiring Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow. Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin is leading so far on the Democratic side, while Trump-backed Congressman Mike Rogers is ahead in the Republican primary. Voters heading to the polls in Michigan had plenty to say about the newly minted Democratic ticket.
The governor of Minnesota will be great.
Why?
Well, for one thing, he stands for change. And he's a union man, and I respect that.
How important was her pick to your vote in November? Does it strengthen?
But the vice president?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
NBC Shaquille Brewster reporting tonight from Detroit, which could be a key area for Democrats come the fall. Hey, Shaq.
Hi there, Valerie. Well, look, throughout the day, I've been able to talk to some of those engaged voters here in Battleground, Michigan, here to participate in the state's primary election. And you heard some of their comments just now, but I'll tell you, there was one undecided voter who said that she wants to learn a little bit more about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. She wants to do some research before making an ultimate decision over who she'll support in November. But based on my conversations, I really got the sense that Democrats are largely trusting the vice president and her pick of a running mate. And one of those conversations was with a candidate here on Michigan's ballot, Representative Elisa Slotkin, who was here greeting voters as they were coming in. She said that she not only endorsed the new ticket on the Democratic side, but she talked about the new energy Democrats are feeling. Listen to a little bit of our conversation.
I don't know about the primary so much, but man, the energy in the room has completely shifted. I mean, everywhere, and I've been here in the Detroit area, I've been in Flint, I've been in Muskegon, I've been in Grand Rapids. Just people feel hopeful and positive. In Michigan, we understand that we're a swing state. We've always been a swing state, and we always will be, despite new energy and all the excitement. You got to have a lot of turnout among Democrats, and you got to win independents.
The question now is whether or not the vice president's pick of Governor Tim Walz helps the Democrats win over some of those independent voters, especially in these battleground states. That is all going to be part of the process that you're going to see now, where both sides are going to try to define the governor as he's introduced to a national audience. Valerie?
Shaq, thank you. Coming up, another round of fighting between Elon Musk and advertisers. This time it'll be in court inside the claims that there was a boycott against X. But first, you gotta see this. A video Tim Walz posted last year is now going viral. It shows him going on an amusement ride with his daughter, and it turned into a special father-daughter moment.
Hey, Minnesota, Governor Walz here, out at the State Fair with my daughter.
Ho.
Every year we as a family do something old and something new. I get to pick something, a classic, the old mill ride, to do that. And then Hope gets to pick something new.
I think we're gonna go do the slingshot.
Which I don't know what it is, and they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
Turkey's
then,
meat.
Not in Minnesota, turkey's special. And we will go do some of those things and report back.
You can't help but laugh at that. Who doesn't love a good old Midwestern dad, right? We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. The governor of Hiroshima marked the 79th anniversary of its atomic bombing by the U.S. today by calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons, saying, quote, as long as nuclear weapons exist, they will surely be used again someday. He emphasized that nuclear disarmament is not a distant goal, but an urgent issue. North Korea is celebrating the delivery of 250 nuclear-capable missile launchers to its frontline units. The launchers, designed for tactical ballistic missiles, were showcased at a ceremony in Pyongyang. Leader Kim Jong-un emphasized the need for overwhelming firepower because of what he calls escalating tensions with the U.S. and its allies. Mexican journalist Alejandro Martinez was shot and killed despite having a government-appointed security detail. It happened in the central part of the country over the weekend, where rising cartel violence has seen 41 police officers killed just this year. Mexico is widely considered one of the deadliest countries in the Americas for journalists. In a rare weather event, a supercell tornado was caught on video in Spain. Officials reported no significant damage. This extraordinary event followed a recent heat wave marked by a dramatic drop in temperatures and severe weather. Hamas says it has named Yahya Sinwar as their new political leader following the death of Ismail Haniyeh last week. Sinwar is also considered the mastermind behind the October 7th attack on Israel. What does it mean for ceasefire talks moving forward? NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber has more.
Hamas has officially named the replacement for their political chief who was assassinated inside of Iran, Ismail Haniyeh. They say the man who will replace Haniyeh is Yahya Sinwar. He is considered by Israel to have been the mastermind behind October 7th. He is the top Hamas official inside of Gaza. He will now be taking on the role, not just as a military figure, but also as a political leader moving forward. This apparently occurred after 2 days of negotiations, conversations with Hamas leadership in Doha, Qatar, where they settled and unanimously agreed on Yahya Sinwar as Haniyeh's replacement. The big question moving forward is, what will this mean for the possibility of ceasefire talks and a potential hostage deal? Based on reporting that had come out in the summer months, one report in particular by the Wall Street Journal where there were leaked correspondence between Haniyeh and Sinwar. Sinwar is known as the guy who was taking a more hard line when it comes to any sort of agreement for a ceasefire, saying that he felt the war was going in Hamas's favor and they only wanted to come to a deal if it would be a permanent ceasefire. He is sort of top of Israel's hit list, if you will. They killed in July, according to the IDF, the man who was considered to be his partner in masterminding October 7th, Mohammed Def, but they have been searching, the IDF, for 300 plus days now for Yahya Sinwar, and they say that he has been hiding in tunnels underground inside of Gaza. Now all of this, experts say, raises the question of what will it mean for the hostages moving forward? Is there any hope of them getting out? But all of this is happening while this region remains on edge, anticipating, waiting for Iran to retaliate for that assassination inside of their sovereign territory. Israeli officials have told NBC News they expect Iran and its proxies to launch a multi-day attack that will come in waves, they say, of missiles and drones, both from Hezbollah in the north and also Iran in the east. But today, the biggest news coming from Doha, Qatar, where Hamas has decided that the man who will now lead the political side of things for Hamas is the alleged mastermind of October 7th, Yahya Sinwar. Back to you.
Coming up, another fast-moving wildfire destroying homes in California, the effort to control these flames, plus why the Park Fire shows no signs of slowing down. That's after the break. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. A glacial dam burst in Alaska, releasing billions of gallons of water and destroying over 100 homes. But officials say the waters begin to recede. They will begin to tally the real impact of the damage. In L.A., the world's largest wildlife crossing is just starting to come together. Crews are building a 200-foot-long bridge with concrete beams over the 101 freeway, a major highway in the area. It'll be a way for animals in the Golden State to safely cross over the traffic. It's set to open in early 2026. And LA Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman returned to the lineup last night after being out since July 26th to care for his 3-year-old son Maximus, who had a neurological disorder. He got an emotional welcome from the crowd, who gave him a standing ovation. Now to the wildfire emergency in California. A heat wave is not making things any easier on firefighters across the state. New evacuations have been ordered near the Park Fire, which flared up overnight, growing by some 10,000 acres north of Sacramento. According to officials, the humid conditions aren't expected to improve until later this week. In Southern California, crews have been able to mostly contain the Edge Hill fire. Fast-moving flames have destroyed at least 5 homes near San Bernardino. Evacuation orders have been lifted. David Noriega joins me now from Los Angeles. David, let's start up north. How are firefighters contending with those dry and hot conditions as they battle the Park Fire?
Yeah, Valerie, so the Park Fire, this mega fire, one of the largest in California history, has been raging for almost 15 days now. And when a fire is that big, it pretty much has no choice but to go on burning for a pretty long time. CAL FIRE is listing it as around 34% contained at this point, which doesn't sound like a very big percentage. But when you talk about a fire that's 415,000 acres big, that is a lot of land that these crews have had to work really hard to protect. Right? When you talk about containing a fire, it's not the actual area of the fire. It's how much of the perimeter has been sort of constructed as a barrier to prevent that fire from spreading. So as you pointed out, the issue right now is that it's once again very hot and dry in inland California, with temperatures consistently in the triple digits. And we're not going to see a drop in the temperature until later in the week, Friday or Saturday. And probably the dry conditions will last until about then as well. So it's a struggle for these crews up there, particularly working in this heat, not just because it makes it harder to put out the fire and to contain the fire, but also because it's exhausting to the people who are actually working on putting it out. And that means that they have to take more breaks to drink more water. And it just puts up a lot of obstacles to keeping that fire contained, particularly when you see flare-ups like the one we saw overnight.
And speaking of how dry and hot it is in Southern California, that fast-moving Edge Hill fire is a perfect example of how dangerous these conditions are, right?
Yeah, so the Edge Hill fire, it's in terms of size, it's a tiny fraction of the Park Fire, right? It's about 100 acres. But the fact that it happened in this pretty densely populated hillside neighborhood in San Bernardino, a big city of about, more than 200,000 people, it just shows you, just as you said, exactly how dangerous these kinds of fires are, precisely because of how fast they can grow in these hot and dry conditions. This was a fire that San Bernardino County authorities say is suspected to have been caused by human causes, but they're still investigating what that might have been, whether it was intentional or unintentional. And again, it happened in the context of this pretty densely populated neighborhood. And once it got growing, it exploded within a matter of minutes. And before you knew it, 5 houses were completely destroyed, reduced to ashes. An additional 3 were damaged. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Some families, though, did lose pets. And as you pointed out, the authorities have been able to mostly contain this fire. The evacuation orders were lifted at around 11:30 this morning, local time, Pacific time, and that fire seems to be more or less under control. But yeah, very much a lesson in how quickly these fires can grow and how dangerous they can get. Valerie?
Yeah, we know there's not much relief in sight for those weather conditions as well. David Noriega, thank you. A rare move by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency banning the use of a pesticide for the risks it may pose to unborn babies. This is the first time in 40 years the EPA has taken this sort of emergency response, but an agency administrator says it is, quote, so dangerous that it needs to be removed from the market immediately. The company behind the pesticide has yet to respond. NBC News reporter Maya Eaglin joins us now. And Maya, tell us, what exactly is this pesticide? Where is it used? And how long has this been around?
So, Valerie, this pesticide is called Dactyl, or DCPA, and it's used to kill weeds, sometimes used on turfs, but mostly on farms growing crops. It was introduced in 1958, and this ban is due to concerns mainly about pregnant farm workers who are exposed to this chemical.
And what kind of adverse effects could it have on unborn children? We know that's the big concern here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing difficulties with fetal thyroid hormone levels. There's also these babies being born at lower weights than average. decreases in IQ, impaired brain development, and also challenges with fine motor skills. So these are those babies that are inside the mother's womb of these farm workers who are around these chemicals on a continuous basis.
And farm workers aside, do people in general need to be concerned about consuming products that may have this pesticide?
The products reaching grocery stores have trace amounts of these pesticides. I think the main concern here are for those farm workers and also the surrounding community members, because when these pesticides are dropped down, there's a bit of drift. So the pregnant farm workers, but also the women around these communities, it's always a good idea to wash your produce. We're seeing this chemical mainly being used in broccoli farms, Brussels sprouts, for cabbage and onions. There are trace amounts of these pesticides on top of the produce, but also researchers have found them inside the produce as well, but at minimal levels that are nothing compared to the hazardous levels that these farm workers are facing on a continual basis.
Got it. Okay, important information, Maya. Thank you so much. Before we go, it's time for the future of everything. Elon Musk declares war on advertisers. What it could mean for the future of his social media platform, we'll break that down. Plus, from a prison cell in Russia to the bright lights of Paris, Brittney Griner on why her play in the Olympics are so important to her. In tonight's Future of Everything, Elon Musk and X are back in the headlines. The social media platform formerly known as Twitter is now suing a coalition of advertisers. The claim is over an alleged boycotting of the platform after Elon Musk took over. The suit alleges that the Global Alliance for Responsible Media conspired with brands like CVS, Mars, and Unilever to withhold billions of dollars in revenue from X. In a video, the platform CEO broke down all of the claims.
These organizations targeted our company and you, our users. The evidence and facts are on our side. They conspired to boycott X, which threatens our ability to thrive in the future. You deserve an open platform where your views can be expressed without restriction and without fear.
Musk had this to say, quote, "Now it is war." Let's bring in senior correspondent at Business Insider, Ben Bergman. Ben, remind us what happened after Musk took over the social platform. Is there any truth here to these claims?
Well, what happened after Musk took over the platform is advertising revenue fell off a cliff. It's now reportedly at about $2 billion. Before it was over $4 billion. Advertisers have flown from the platform because they don't want to advertise candy bars and drugstore and cars against hate speech and misinformation, which has proliferated on Twitter since Elon Musk took over.
And how about the advertisers? Have they responded to these claims at all?
No, they have not said anything. But I mean, just think about this for a second. Elon Musk is trying to get advertisers to come back on his platform. Last fall in New York, he told them to go F themselves. And recently, he said he wants to sue them. This is not what they teach in marketing or business school, to try to sue people to get them to be your customers.
So looking at this lawsuit, does it actually have any teeth, or is this Elon Musk being Elon Musk?
It's quite the latter. Elon Musk loves suing people, and this has also been something that Republicans have adopted, suing these groups to force them to advertise. But no one has to advertise on your platform. And usually in an antitrust suit, there would be some sort of collusion or price fixing. There's none of that on here. These advertisers just don't want to advertise on Twitter, and it seems like they're free to do that if they want to. We can't force them to.
We know Elon is never far from the headlines. What are some of the other controversies he's dealing with right now?
Well, how long do you have? I mean, the basic problem for him is that this is one of the worst acquisitions in history. He bought X, Twitter, at the top, and now it's worth a fraction of it was. And, you know, he said he was going to turn this into a subscription model. He didn't want to count on advertisers. That failed. Users aren't willing to pay for Twitter. So now he's trying to get advertisers to come back. But I don't think suing them is the right solution.
And are any of these controversies, are they impacting any other of Musk's businesses? Tesla comes to mind.
Well, Tesla has not been doing well at all. Tesla's shares have been falling very quickly because of new competition. And also they've been losing market share in the U.S. And I think a lot of Tesla investors are very worried that Elon Musk is spending his attention on Twitter and X when he should be spending it on Twitter and also SpaceX.
All right, as we mentioned, he's never far from the headlines. I'm sure we'll have something very soon. Ben Bergman, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Finally tonight, Brittney Griner is going for gold in Paris. As Liz Kreutz shows us, it is a journey of deeper meaning after everything the best basketball icon has been through.
As WNBA star Brittney Griner goes for her third Olympic gold,
BG scoring.
This time is different. It's her first Olympics since her harrowing ordeal 2 years ago.
Do you think everything you've been through the past few years, that gold is going to mean even more?
Oh, 100%.
In 2022, Griner was sentenced to 9 years in a Russian prison on drug charges after officials there said they found cannabis oil in her luggage.
I made an honest mistake.
After nearly 10 months detained, Griner finally released in a high-profile prisoner exchange, much like the recent one that brought back Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan. Paris is now the first time she's been abroad since returning home.
How have you prepared for this moment?
You know, me and my counselor, we talked a lot about it and, you know, triggering things that could happen. But then also just staying focused. You know, I'm thinking about bringing home that gold.
And waiting for her at home, wife Sherelle and their new baby son Bash, born less than a month ago.
Every minute I feel like he's popping in my head and I'm thinking about him. It's just, my world changed.
Now in Paris, winning is Griner's sole focus, even off the court, where the 33-year-old is plotting games against the men's U.S. basketball team.
The player lounge room is always fun. It's a fun time. A lot of intense Uno games. And
Wait, you and Steph Curry might be playing some Uno?
I mean, we might. He better watch out. I need to bring the Uno revenge with the draw 10 in that thing.
Sadly, no cameras allowed in there, but all eyes on Griner as she and her teammates go for gold.
What do you want people watching from home to know about Brittney Griner right now in this moment?
BG is locked in and ready to go. I'm happy. I'm in a great place. I'm representing my country that fought for me to come back. And I'm going to represent well.
Liz Kreutz, NBC News.
All right, and we'll be cheering BG on at the games. That does it for us tonight. I'm Valerie Castro. We will see you tomorrow on Wednesday, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.